Um, Thank you for staying with me. Sometimes I call that the best meditation, just waiting. Meditation with not knowing what's going to happen next. I think that's pretty realistic when it comes to our lives, not knowing what's going to happen next. I know in working with performance, I know Birgit's here, and we've talked about her piano performance, and also golfers and other athletes. The Getting ahead of ourselves and expectations about how things are going to work out interferes with our being fully present to the process that we're working with. So um, I got Tim. Yes, I had a great retreat. Thank you for remembering that, Tim. Um, the interesting thing is sometimes after retreat, you it takes a little while to integrate. So my sense of time and space is adjusting to the pace of our modern world. So what I was saying on the expectation, there's both the um, hope and fear, positive and negative expectations. So one of the sayings is not being concerned with what's going to happen. The subtler one is not being concerned with what's not going to happen. So we can use that as our basis. Ah, here's Jenny from across the pond. We have this one or 2 weeks each year. I guess I don't know if it happens in the spring as much as it seems to happen more in the fall, where we are the U.S. is still on daylight savings. Hi, Jenny, and UK and Europe is off of daylight savings. So we get our schedules mixed up. So it's a time of timing and schedules. Okay. Oh, and Jenny's gone. Well, maybe she'll be back. Okay, so let's do some practice and then we can have some more discussion. So as far as the practice goes, let's take this attitude of being aware of when expectations come up of how the practice should be going. If we feel settled and present and our thoughts seem light and coming and going, we feel that's good. So we want more of that. If we feel scattered and our mind's all over the place and we barely catch a breath or two before we're off again, we go, what's wrong? That's bad. Let all of that go and bring in the sense of humor of let's see what happens. And sometimes when we relax and see what happens, things settle down by themselves. But we don't know, so let's be free of that expectation. Okay, so let's get started. And as the gong fades, just take your good posture. We're going to start with our eyes closed, but then we're going to have them open, so don't be looking directly into your screen. Turn things to the side a bit. And then fully inhabit your body. Feel your sit bones pressing into the seat. If your legs are crossed in front of you, feel your feet pressing into the floor, the edges of your feet pressing into the floor. And if you're sitting in a chair, you can have your lower legs perpendicular to the ground, so not tucked in or stretched out. Feet about hip width apart. Now, if your legs are long or your chair is low and your knees are higher than your hips, you're going to want your knees to be even with, or even better, slightly lower than your hips. So you can cross your feet at the ankles and let your knees widen so that they're below your hips. And just feel your lower legs move a little bit. Feel how your legs come into your torso at the hip joint. Now for our torso, we want it upright but not rigid. And that includes up to your neck and head. Just feel like it's pretty much a straight line from the tailbone all the way to the back of the top of your head. What that does is it makes your neck not lean forward or tilt so much. And you'll find that if you feel that straight line, your chin will come in naturally. So that's the back. And for the front of your torso, just feel like your sternum, your breastbone, comes a little bit up and forward, which opens your chest. Your shoulders come back nicely in line with your ears. Everything kind of aligns that way when you open up your chest. We spend so much time with our shoulders curled forward and our chest, kind of collapsed in or concave. So just go a little bit opposite. Don't force it, just a tiny bit, and it opens and widens your chest. Your arms, your upper arms, hang straight from your shoulders, and your lower arms kind of parallel your thighs with your hands palm down on each thigh just behind your knees. We talked about the neck, the back of the head, the chin coming in slightly. If your chin is sticking out, you're kind of on your way forward. If it's down, you get sleepy. If it's up, you get spaced out. Your jaw is relaxed, but your mouth's not hanging slack open. And your tongue can just rest naturally or let it float up and touch lightly the tip of your tongue lightly at the upper palate just behind your teeth. Your lips are either just very lightly touching or slightly parted. We're breathing in through our nose. If some air comes out through your mouth, that's fine. And just scan your body, fully inhabit. We went from the toes to the top of our head, and just let go of any unnecessary tension that you're hanging on to. We have some tension to keep our spine upright and our chest open. The rest pretty much can just hang from that, like canvas hanging from a tent pole before it's pulled out into the tent. Notice your face, eye muscles, jaw. Let it all soften, let it all melt. Your scalp, neck and shoulders. You may not even be aware of how you're holding your shoulders up. Just let them soften. Let them fall into place. They won't fall off. Everything around your chest, upper back and rib cage, your arms, forearms. Let your hands relax as well. Your lower back and deep belly and pelvic region. We're clenching sometimes and don't realize it. Sometimes if you let that go, you slump in your posture. So it's an interesting balance there. Keep your spine upright, but not rigid, and then just soften your deep belly and pelvic region. Thighs, calves, ankles and feet. And slowly bring your awareness back into your core and feel the depth front to back of your torso. We're not two-dimensional, we're three-dimensional. You can feel it expand as you breathe in, contract as you breathe out. That's the diaphragm pushing down to pull air in, pushing up to send air out. But it feels like your deep belly is expanding and contracting. Let your awareness rest there, deep in the core of your torso, a few inches below your navel, just in front of your spine. And relax your control of the breathing. Let your body breathe itself. I promise your body will keep breathing even if you're not paying attention to it. Just kind of hang out being an observer of your body breathing. Tune into the physical feeling of expanding as the breath comes in and contracting as it goes out. Now, with our eyes closed, sometimes it can be easier to just get into imagining, and we actually lose touch with the physical experience. So let your eyes open about halfway, and without tilting your head forward, look down along the angle of your nose. Not at anything particular, but just aware of the space that your body's sitting in as that feeling of expanding and contracting is happening. Now you're actually experiencing it, not imagining it. And there isn't any right or wrong. Deep breath, shallow breath, long, short. You might hear sounds, you might have other physical sensations, and thoughts may pop up. All that's happening, coming and going, around your focus, on the feeling of filling and emptying with the breath. Now, if a thought captures your mind and you go off into a series of thoughts, it has a different physical sensation. You'll find your sense of your mind and awareness isn't located deep in your core anymore. It's someplace else. Until the moment that you kind of snap out of it, and then you're back in the present moment. The practice then is just to acknowledge, say, I was off in thoughts, without judgment, and then reconnect with that awareness of your core, awareness of your posture, awareness of the space you're sitting in. We'll do that for a couple of minutes. As the gong fades, relax. You can move a little bit. Often doing this practice, it's helpful to do it for a short period and take a fresh start. So you can reinvigorate your posture, reconnect with body, awareness of your breathing. But now let your eyes be open in an ordinary way, looking straight ahead, which means they'll be slightly downward rather than out to the horizon. We almost have to look up to see the horizon. And soften your gaze so you're aware of the whole space, your whole field of vision. Open up your peripheral vision, top to bottom, side to side. When you relax your gaze that way, you'd be amazed. Sometimes it's even more than 180 degrees. You can see almost around a little bit behind you. And the sense of environment all around. We think of our environment as separate from ourselves. There's me and my environment. But we're actually connected. Even our skin is breathing. There's interaction. So let's connect with that feeling of being part of an environment, a field of experience, rather than me versus that, this versus that. And as you breathe out, be aware that the air is coming out and mixing. Your breath is coming out and mixing with the atmosphere in the room, diffusing, eventually becoming one with the atmosphere. And as you breathe in, you're breathing in the environment. So you're breathing in something you normally regard as not you, and it comes in and then becomes part of you. And as you breathe out, it's part of you that then becomes part mixed with the environment. And you can't find that place where it stops being that and starts being this, or stops being this and starts being that. So just work with that awareness of our wholeness, our connectedness, our interdependence with the environment. Just explore that for a minute or two. And don't change your posture or your gaze. Connecting with the environment that way, you may feel a little less solid here and more of a rhythm or flow. Through and around you. So continue to open up, listen for sounds, notice thoughts coming and going. We think we hear sounds from particular directions, and it's the way the vibrations are encountering our bodies, and our mind interprets that as a direction. We see objects, but it's really light coming in through our eyes, and it's our mind that shapes them into objects out of colors, shapes, and shades of light and dark. Thoughts are impulses arising out of past experience, which take particular shapes, but it's our mind that creates those shapes. It's mental energy, visual energy, auditory energy. We feel pain, itch, numbness, feelings of pleasure in different parts of our body. But it's our mind that's experiencing those. So let's go through, let's start with visual. Notice that what you're seeing, you differentiate between light and dark, bright and dim. And the points of difference are edges that we then identify as objects. Whatever we focus on, we separate it from what's around it. That makes it an object. Look at a particular object and see if you can notice the thought process. It's not really thought, the mental process. That we start identifying. There's a subtle like, dislike, or neutral to it. And then maybe a thought. Oh, I remember when I bought that bookcase. And then that fits into all of your experience. Listen for sounds, near and far, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, then identified, and then comments on it. The key to this practice of going through perceptions like that is to develop a sense of humor and realize that what we're working with are appearances in our mind that we take to be the objects of our perceptions. The objects are there, but we confuse them with the appearances that have all the the extra adornments of our commentary with them. And as you practice this, you'll notice that the commentary starts to become a little less solid, and the perceptions become more vivid. And they are just what they are, rather than what they are for you. And this gets back to what we were talking about at the very beginning. That things are what they are rather than what we need them to be or want them to be. So our expectations can relax. Now for the last practice, we can extend this not just to inanimate objects in our fields of perception, but other beings. We go through the same process. Seeing or hearing, then liking, disliking, and then creating a whole story around it. which is always a partial story. It's our version of things. So imagine a loved one, and you can close your eyes or leave them open for this. Imagine a loved one and know what they're going through, what makes them happy, what makes them sad. And now notice, do you have a particular way that you'd like them to be happy? Do you have a particular way that you'd like to remove their sadness? And let go of that. Put your awareness at your heart center and just feel the wish for them to be happy in their own way, for them to be free of sadness in their own way. Unconditional. Whether it's physical or mental suffering, physical or mental well-being. Traditionally, we breathe in and imagine that we're freeing them of that suffering. Breathe out and we're imbuing them, filling them with that well-being. And expand it to more people that you know, that and notice your opinions about those people. Maybe you think some are more deserving of well-being, more deserving or less deserving of being free of suffering. Let that go and go back to your heart. Just, however, in their own way. As you breathe in, they're relieved of their suffering, even just a little bit of it. As you breathe out, they have a little bit more well-being on their own terms. Your heartfelt wish for them to be more free of suffering, more experiencing well-being, doesn't have to do with you. It's for them. And finally, see how vast you can apply that to all the beings and more of the beings in the world, as much as you can. Notice where there's resistance to letting go of how you'd like things to be. Go back to your heart. Send out the wish to be free of suffering. Send out happiness. Breathe in, imagining that you could relieve them of suffering. And the very last part, the causes of so much suffering are these poisonous emotions: greed, hatred, intolerance. Imagine as you breathe in, all that is drawn out of their beings, their hearts, and dissolves into the atmosphere. And as you breathe out, that they're filled with love, generosity, acceptance. And let go what you're imagining. Just bring it back to here and now. Lower your gaze. Just kind of reconnect with the breathing and the rhythm. Being present. Mindful of breath. Mindful of posture. Mindful of awareness. And now, thank you for your practice. And as we usually do, we, having experienced our world and others, we can dedicate the practice. And you can repeat after me or put in your own words. May the practice we've just done be of even more benefit to others than to ourselves. And that's a lot of generosity. And even for the aspect of our practice that we're doing for ourselves, we're doing it so that we can be of more benefit to others. Because we're all interdependent, we're all connected. So thank you. We've got a couple of minutes. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to unmute yourself and re-video yourself and whatever you'd like to do. Hi, Birgit.
Um, yeah, I just wanted to comment on what you said about um, other people being happy on their terms.
Mm,
Um, I've often found that, let's say, if somebody says something that rubs you the wrong way, and then you go off with that, and it's kind of stuck in your mind.
hmm
It sort of colors the picture that you have of that person, and then when you see them again in real life, um, you suddenly realize that how you were stuck on one aspect, and as you have the person in front of you, you have just the big picture, and the emotion, the thing that you were stuck with changes. So I guess it's important to remember that very often with these things, we just see that one thing and we're hooked on that. And um, try to find ways to see the bigger picture.
That's great. That's a great observation. I was noticing when I was taking away all the greed and intolerance and all that, and sending out love and compassion and acceptance, the thought came up, well, then they'll vote the way I think they should vote. It's back there, you know. Yeah, then the world will be more like what I have in mind. It's so interesting. It often comes back to that. So that's where the sense of humor comes in. Thank you. That's a great observation, Birgit. Yeah, that's it. Reminds me of the blind men and the elephant story. That six blind men were taken to the zoo, and they all wanted to experience the elephant. So they all felt the elephant. And they came back, and one said, "Well, now I know what an elephant's like. It's like a rope." The other one said, You must not have felt the elephant, because I felt the elephant. It's like a tree trunk." The other one said, "No, no, no. An elephant's like a wall." Another one said, "No, an elephant's like a spear." Another one said, "No, an elephant's like a banana leaf." And the other one said, "No, an elephant's like a snake." Well, the first one had felt the tail. The second had felt the leg. The third had felt the side of the elephant. The fourth had felt its ear. The fifth, its tusk. And the last one, its trunk. So that kind of goes along with what you were saying. We get one piece impression. Well, thank you all. It's the top of the hour. If you any last comment, we'll stay for a minute or two. Otherwise, I think we're doing it again Tuesday, November 5th. So I'll try to have my time adjustment better and be there on time on Tuesday if you can join.